Welcome to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast, your weekly news roundup of hunting, fishing, trapping, and conservation stories from around the Gem State. Hosted by Fish and Game's Public Information Specialist, Connor J. Lease.
And welcome back to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast. Not a whole lot to talk about today, so we'll kind of breeze through this. We got avian influenza, a poached moose near Lewiston, and a new public common opportunity for moose, bighorn sheep, and mountain goat seasons. But first, pull up a chair, ladies and gentlemen. It's time we talk about the birds and the seeds. Now, we all know that neighbor that takes bird feeding to Olympic Games level extremes. With tree limbs sagging under the weight of countless feeders and a back lawn that looks like it was ripped straight from Augusta Country Club, they stand out on their back porch with arms outstretched as myriads of birds swoop in to feed directly from their palms. That may be a bit of an exaggeration, but you don't need to be Snow White to attract backyard birds. Many species, including finches, chickadees, jays, nuthatches, sparrows, doves, and more, very well may settle on your backyard bed and breakfast with a proper bird feeding setup this winter. Usually, feeding wild animals is not a smart move. Feeding birds, however, is a special case since they don't often become dependent on feeders alone, and instead use feeders to supplement their daily natural diet. Winter feeding also gives a little assistance to our feathered friends during the harsh, colder months. Here are a few ways to spice up your bird feeding buffet and enjoy an enchanting opportunity to observe wildlife right in your own backyard. Before you go hanging your feeder or feeders all across your backyard, you'll need some seed. Depending on the types of birds you're hoping to attract, there are many feed and feeder options out there. For instance, hanging style feeders can attract songbirds such as house finches, chickadees, jays, nuthatches, and others. Thistle feeders can bring in goldfinches, siskins, and house finches, and suet as well can also attract woodpeckers, chickadees, and nuthatches. There are many kinds of birdseed out there on the market too. Be sure to source your birdseed from reputable sources to avoid dust, insects, weed seeds, or any other impurities from making their way into your feeder. Black oil sunflower seed is a favorite of many species. Millet and cracked corn are also favorites for many ground-feeding birds. And finches and siskins love their Niger thistle. To avoid freeloaders like squirrels, rats, and mice ruining your supply, store birdseed in tight, waterproof containers. This will also help prevent mold. Now, birds don't have the same pleasures that we do when it comes to drive-through windows. Placing a bird feeder too close to hazards can end up doing more harm than good. So avoid placing feeders near windows or doors, and keep placement height and accessibility in mind. Predators such as hawks or free-range and house cats can quickly become uninvited backyard dinner guests when feeders are put out in the open or near low-hanging ledges. Now, a hearty meal wouldn't be complete without a drink. Birds utilize bird baths throughout the year, not only to stay clean, but to keep themselves hydrated, a luxury we humans should not try in our baths at home. If possible, include a bird bath in your backyard bed and breakfast. There are several types on the market, but you can't go wrong with a simple clay potting saucer. This time of year, however, it might be a little troublesome keeping that bath ice-free. There are a couple solutions, including special bird bath heaters to help keep their baths from freezing over. And no, they don't come with little mini whirlpool jets and colored LED lights. A bird's bath or feeder only does its job when it's clean. Imagine inviting over the whole cul-de-sac for a hot tub party and leaving the chlorine float in the garage. It's very important that backyard bird enthusiasts keep their feeders and bird baths tidy and disinfect at least once a month to prevent the spreading of diseases. Now, along those lines, aim for using perch-style feeders rather than open saucer-style feeders. Because of their openness and contamination from bird feces, open feeders and baths can become a breeding ground for disease. If you're looking to clean your feeders, make a household bleach solution using 1 part household bleach mixed with 9 parts lukewarm water. Make enough solution to immerse an empty, cleaned feeder completely for 2 to 3 minutes, then let it air dry. Remember that feeding wildlife other than birds is not recommended. Birds are unique in that they don't solely rely or become hooked on free backyard birdseed. The same cannot be said about other wildlife. If food set out for birds is being eaten by other wildlife, move the feeder to a safe location or discontinue feeding. Feeding birds is a gratifying experience that can be enjoyed by anyone. So pull out the binoculars and the bird watching guide and enjoy this simple pastime all year round, right from the comfort of your backyard. And while we're on the topic of birds, here's some not so great news regarding avian influenza. Avian influenza remains a threat to wild birds across Idaho, and Idaho Fish and Game is aware of several locations reporting cases of wild bird die-offs. Unfortunately, the disease will have to run its course in most instances. Fish and Game personnel cannot respond to all cases of infected wild birds, but our staff are actively working to pick up carcasses of birds in areas with the largest number of dead waterfowl. Our Wildlife Health Program Coordinator Stacy DeWalter said, quote, "We are aware that sick and dead wild geese are currently being reported by the public in the Lake Lowell, Parma, and Fort Boise areas of the Treasure Valley, and we estimate the number of dead birds to be in the thousands. Fish and Game staff are working hard to remove the dead birds, as that is the best option we have to reduce impacts of avian influenza," end quote. According to Fish and Game Migratory Game Bird Coordinator Jeff Knetter, mortality events like this are currently widespread.
Groups of dead light geese, which include blue, snow, and Ross's geese, have been discovered as far east as Indiana and Tennessee and as far south as Louisiana and Texas. While this is unfortunate, several thousand light geese dying in a mortality event does not present a population-level concern. The number of birds impacted is a very small proportion of the overall population, which currently exceeds 1 million birds.
Avian influenza is carried primarily by waterfowl, so geese and ducks, along their migratory paths from their summer habitat to their wintering grounds. Southwest Idaho has become an important migratory stopover in the relatively recent past. There has been a large increase in the number of white geese that stop here during fall over the last 15 years, and the same is true for birds heading back north in the spring. As many as 30,000 plus were counted at Lake Lowell last winter. Live birds showing signs of illness should be left alone. Local wildlife rehabilitation centers are not currently accepting wild birds. There is no treatment or vaccine for avian influenza, and moving sick birds may spread it even further. Dead birds can be disposed of in the trash to ensure other animals do not contact or consume them. The best practice here when handling the birds is to use gloves and a mask, and then place them in a double-bagged trash bag. People should also make sure to wash their hands after handling the birds. Folks, please report sick or dead wild bird observations on our website to assist avian influenza surveillance efforts. According to the U.S. Center for Disease Control, bird flu viruses do not normally infect humans. However, sporadic human infections with bird flu viruses have occurred. Symptoms may include conjunctivitis, fever, lethargy, aches, coughing, or even diarrhea. Domestic birds and poultry are very susceptible to dying once exposed to avian influenza. Influenza is transmitted between birds through close contact, or mucus, also including fecal matter and sometimes even through the air. It is also carried on objects such as tools, vehicles, clothes, and boots, which can transfer the virus from one location to another. So please contact the Idaho State Department or ISDA if you have any concerns about commercial or backyard poultry. And that's all I have to report on that topic. With that, it's time for the Rapid Fire Bulletin. Idaho Fish and Game will be gathering public input on new moose, bighorn sheep, and mountain goat season proposals starting December 19th. Proposals are expected to be posted today, December 19th, and the comment period will run through January 9th, 2025. Folks can hit the link in the description or go to idfg.idaho.gov/comment to review the season's proposals. The public comment process will also include meetings and open houses hosted at Fish and Game's regional offices. Hit the link to learn more. Fish and Game's Magic Valley region is applying for a grant seeking funds to improve an existing public fishing and boating access site located on the Billingsley Creek WMA, located near Hagerman. The public is invited to an open house to learn more about the proposed site changes. The project will improve the takeout at Billingsley Creek WMA by installing a dock, stairway landing, widening the stairs, reducing stairway steepness, installing a vault toilet, and constructing a larger parking area at the top of the stairway. The public is invited to an open house to learn more about the proposed site changes. The open house will be held on January 8th from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Magic Valley Regional Office. Fish and Game enforcement officers are seeking the public's help in identifying the suspect of a poached and wasted bull moose that was reported on December 1st, 2024 near Lewiston. The moose was shot with a rifle along Zaza Road on the Craig Mountain WMA, south of Larrabee Road, and was likely shot on or around November 27th. Unfortunately, none of the meat was able to be salvaged and the entire animal was wasted. Any tips or information can be provided by calling the Idaho Citizens Against Poaching hotline at 1-800-632-5999 or Conservation Officer John McLean at 208-827-1488. And last but not least, 2025 licenses are now on sale. Share your love for the outdoors by buying an Idaho resident hunting license, fishing license, or a sportsman's package for friends and family this holiday season. The gift of the outdoors can be purchased by visiting a Fish and Game regional office and purchasing a gift certificate, a perfect stocking stuffer for this holiday season. And that's all the news we have for this week, folks. Thanks for putting an ear to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin. If there's something on your mind, or if you got a question related to Fish and Game matters, feel free to drop us a line at podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. Again, that's podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. We really want to hear from you, so if you got a question that's been burning in your mind, feel free to write us in, and I'll do my best to get it answered for you. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll catch you next week.